Imagine being so dangerous that the greatest empire in the world feared your name for decades. A general who crossed massive mountains with war elephants. A strategist so brilliant that military academies still study his battles today. This is the story of Hannibal Barca, the man who brought Rome to its knees. And honestly, if you see elephants coming down snowy mountains toward your city, that's probably a bad sign. The story begins in the ancient city of Carthage, one of the richest and most powerful cities of the ancient world. Carthage controlled trade across the Mediterranean and rivaled the growing power of Roman Republic. The two powers had already fought one massive conflict known as the First Punic War, and Carthage lost. The defeat humiliated the Carthaginians. Among those most angered by Rome was a famous Carthaginian commander, Hannibal Barca, the father of Hannibal. According to ancient historians, Hannibal brought his young son before an altar and made him swear eternal hatred toward Rome. Imagine being a kid and your dad asks, "Do you promise to hate Rome forever?" That's not exactly a normal childhood moment, but Hannibal accepted the oath, and he would spend the rest of his life trying to destroy Rome. As Hannibal grew older, he learned warfare, strategy, horseback riding, and leadership. He followed his father into military campaigns in Spain, where Carthage was expanding its influence. The young Hannibal quickly proved fearless and intelligent. Soldiers admired him, commanders respected him, and even at a young age, people sensed something unusual about him. He wasn't just brave, he was brilliant. After the death of Hamilcar, and later Hannibal's brother-in-law, leadership eventually passed to Hannibal himself, and once he took command, history changed forever. Rome thought Carthage had been weakened forever, but far away in Spain, a young commander was preparing one of the boldest invasions in history. By the time Hannibal became commander of Carthage's forces in Spain, he had one clear goal: challenge Rome again. Tensions between Carthage and Rome continued growing. Eventually, conflict erupted over the city of Saguntum, which was allied with Rome. Hannibal attacked the city. Rome demanded he be handed over. Carthage refused. And just like that, the Second Punic War began. Rome expected Hannibal to attack by sea. That's what most commanders would do. But Hannibal wasn't most commanders. Instead, he planned something almost impossible. He would march his army from Spain, across rivers, through hostile territory, and over the gigantic Alps mountains, into Italy itself, with war elephants. Yes, war elephants. Some Roman soldiers probably heard that plan and laughed, until the elephants actually showed up. In 218 BC, Hannibal began the legendary march. His army included tens of thousands of soldiers, cavalry, and elephants. The journey was brutal. Enemy tribes attacked constantly. Crossing rivers was dangerous, supplies became limited, and the Alps themselves were deadly. Snowstorms, narrow cliffs, freezing temperatures. Many soldiers and animals died during the crossing. But Hannibal kept moving, because he understood something powerful. If he could bring war directly into Italy, Rome would panic. And panic was exactly what he wanted. Soon, the Romans would realize something terrifying. The enemy they feared most was already inside their homeland. The Roman Empire believed the Alps mountains would protect Italy. Huge, snowy peaks, deadly cliffs, freezing winds. No army would dare cross them, especially not with elephants. Rome was about to learn. Hannibal didn't care what was impossible. As Hannibal marched north from Spain, his army faced danger at every step. Enemy tribes attacked from forests and mountain passes. Supplies became harder to carry. Food was limited, and winter was approaching. Still, Hannibal continued forward, because turning back meant failure, and Hannibal refused to fail. Eventually, his army reached the massive Alps. Towering mountains covered in snow blocked the path into Italy. Even today, crossing the Alps is difficult. Now imagine doing it over 2,000 years ago, while wearing armor, with horses, and giant war elephants. Honestly, one elephant probably looked at the mountain and thought, absolutely not. The journey became a nightmare. Narrow paths caused soldiers to fall from cliffs. Snowstorms froze entire groups overnight. Enemy tribes ambushed the exhausted army from above. Many soldiers died, many animals died. Even several elephants failed to survive the crossing. But Hannibal kept inspiring his men. Ancient historians describe him riding through dangerous paths personally, encouraging exhausted soldiers to continue. Because Hannibal understood something important. If they survived the mountains, they would shock the entire Roman world. And finally, after weeks of suffering, the impossible happened. Hannibal emerged from the Alps into northern Italy. The Romans were stunned. An enemy army had appeared where no one expected. And now, Rome itself was in danger. The Romans had fought many enemies before, but they had never seen anything like Hannibal's army, especially the elephants. As Hannibal entered Italy, panic spread quickly. Roman commanders rushed to stop him before he could gain momentum. But Hannibal moved fast, very fast. His army included highly skilled cavalry from North Africa and Spain, experienced infantry, and surviving war elephants. For many Roman soldiers, seeing elephants on the battlefield was terrifying. Imagine training your whole life to fight enemy soldiers, and suddenly a giant armored elephant starts charging at you. Yeah, that would ruin anyone's day. Hannibal soon faced Roman armies near the Battle of the Trebia. The Romans expected a straightforward battle, but Hannibal had prepared a trap. Using hidden troops, clever positioning, and superior cavalry tactics, Hannibal surrounded Roman forces. The result was disaster for Rome. Thousands of Roman soldiers were killed or captured, and this was only the beginning. Soon after, Hannibal defeated another Roman army at the Battle of Lake Trasimene. There, he launched one of history's greatest ambushes. Roman soldiers marching beside the lake suddenly found themselves trapped between water and hidden Carthaginian forces. Chaos erupted. Fog covered the battlefield, and the Roman army collapsed. Rome was now terrified. People feared Hannibal might march directly into the city itself. For the first time in generations, Rome felt vulnerable, and Hannibal wasn't done yet. Because ahead waited the battle many historians consider one of the greatest military victories ever achieved, the Battle of Cannae. In 216 BC, Rome gathered one of the largest armies it had ever assembled. They believed this battle would finally crush Hannibal. Instead, it became one of the greatest military disasters in history. After multiple humiliating defeats, Rome was desperate. The Roman Senate decided overwhelming force was the answer, so they assembled a gigantic army near the town of Cannae. Ancient sources claim the Romans fielded tens of thousands of soldiers. Their plan seemed simple: use superior numbers to crush Hannibal once and for all. But Hannibal had already studied Roman behavior carefully. He knew the Romans preferred aggressive frontal attacks, and he planned to use that aggression against them. On the morning of the Battle of Cannae, Hannibal arranged his troops in a very unusual formation. He placed weaker troops in the center and stronger African infantry on the sides. As the Romans attacked, Hannibal's center slowly pulled backward. To the Romans, it looked like victory. They pushed deeper and deeper forward. But that's exactly what Hannibal wanted, because suddenly, the Carthaginian flanks attacked from both sides. At the same time, Hannibal's cavalry defeated the Roman cavalry and attacked from behind. The Roman army became trapped, completely surrounded. Imagine realizing your army has accidentally walked into the ancient world's biggest surprise attack. At that moment, Roman soldiers probably knew, this is very bad. What followed was catastrophic. Thousands upon thousands of Roman soldiers were killed. Some estimates from ancient historians are enormous, though exact numbers remain debated. Either way, the defeat shocked the Roman world. The Battle of Cannae became legendary. Even today, military academies study Hannibal's tactics there. Because what Hannibal achieved at Cannae wasn't just victory, it was strategic perfection. And now, Rome feared total destruction. After Cannae, many believed Rome was finished. Hannibal had destroyed army after army. Cities began switching sides. Fear spread everywhere, but Rome still refused to surrender. The aftermath of Cannae created panic across Italy. Many Roman allies abandoned Rome and joined Hannibal. Southern cities opened their gates to him. The Roman Republic seemed closer than ever to collapse. Some people expected Hannibal to march directly on Rome itself, but Hannibal faced serious problems. His army was far from home, supplies were limited, reinforcements from Carthage were inconsistent, and attacking the heavily defended city of Rome would be extremely risky. According to later stories, one of Hannibal's officers supposedly told him, "You know how to win victories, Hannibal, but not how to use them." Historians debate whether the quote is real, but the problem itself was very real. Hannibal could defeat Roman armies, yet destroying Rome entirely was much harder. Meanwhile, the Romans adapted. Instead of fighting massive direct battles again, Roman commanders began avoiding Hannibal whenever possible. They attacked smaller forces, disrupted supplies, and slowly wore down his campaign. This strategy became known as the Fabian strategy, named after Roman leader Quintus Fabius Maximus Verrucosus. Basically, Rome decided, maybe fighting Hannibal head-on is a terrible idea. Honestly, probably the smartest thing they'd done all war. Years passed. Hannibal remained undefeated in many battles across Italy, but Rome's resources were enormous. New armies kept forming, and gradually, the balance of the war began shifting. Far away, another Roman commander was preparing a dangerous counterattack, a man who would eventually challenge Hannibal directly. His name was Scipio Africanus, and their final showdown would decide the fate of the ancient world. For years, Hannibal terrorized Rome. He defeated army after army. He became a living nightmare for the Roman Republic. But eventually, Rome found the man capable of stopping him. While Hannibal fought in Italy, Rome changed its strategy completely. Instead of only defending itself, the Romans decided to attack Carthage directly. Leading this bold plan was a young Roman commander, Scipio Africanus. Scipio studied Hannibal carefully. He learned from Hannibal's tactics, adapted to them, and eventually used many of the same strategic ideas himself. As Roman forces invaded North Africa, Carthage faced a terrifying possibility. The war could reach their own homeland. So after many years campaigning in Italy, Hannibal was finally recalled back to Carthage. Imagine fighting for over a decade in enemy territory, only to return home because your city is now in danger. In 202 BC, the final showdown arrived at the Battle of Zama. For the first time in history, Hannibal faced a general who truly understood his methods. The battle was intense. Hannibal once again used war elephants, hoping to break Roman formations. But Scipio had prepared for them. Roman soldiers created gaps in their lines, allowing many elephants to pass through harmlessly. Others panicked and caused confusion among Carthaginian troops. The Romans also gained superiority in cavalry during the battle. Slowly, Hannibal's forces began collapsing. And finally, after years of legendary victories, Hannibal was defeated. The loss at Zama ended the Second Punic War. Rome emerged as the dominant power of the Western Mediterranean. Meanwhile, Carthage lost much of its power and influence. But even in defeat, Rome never forgot how close Hannibal came to destroying them. Because no enemy had ever frightened Rome quite like him. Some generals win wars, others change history forever. Hannibal did both. After the war, Hannibal remained active in politics and military affairs for several years, but Rome still feared his influence. Eventually, Hannibal went into exile, traveling across different kingdoms in the eastern Mediterranean. Even years later, Roman leaders remained nervous about him. That says a lot. Imagine terrifying an empire so badly. They still worry about you decades later. According to ancient sources, when Roman forces finally closed in on him, Hannibal chose death over capture. His final words are debated by historians. But one tradition claims he said, "Let us relieve the Romans from their long anxiety." Even at the end, he understood the fear his name created. Today, Hannibal is remembered as one of the greatest military commanders in history. His tactics at Cannae are still studied in military academies around the world. Generals throughout history, including Napoleon Bonaparte and other famous commanders, admired Hannibal's brilliance. He mastered ambush warfare, battlefield deception, cavalry tactics, psychological warfare, strategic movement, and perhaps most impressive of all, he achieved these victories while fighting far from home against one of history's strongest republics. Yet despite his genius, Hannibal ultimately lost the war, because Rome's greatest strength wasn't just military power, it was persistence. Rome refused to surrender, no matter how many armies were destroyed, no matter how many defeats they suffered. And in the end, that determination changed history forever. But even though Rome won the war, Hannibal won immortality. More than 2,000 years later, people still remember the man who crossed the Alps with elephants and nearly destroyed Rome itself. He crossed mountains thought impossible, shattered Roman armies, and became one of history's greatest military minds. Hannibal Barca was more than a general. He was Rome's greatest nightmare.